That is an absolutely huge result at Anfield for Liverpool. Arsenal were the team coming to make a statement, as they themselves said, and Liverpool sent them home having made their own statement. It is very tempting to say that that statement will speak for the whole season for Liverpool and for Arsenal, and it would also be very tempting, obviously, to rub salt into the wounds to try to push Arsenal a little further down. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I am going to talk to you about some of my initial conclusions and why Liverpool, and in particular Arne Slot, were so good at playing Arsenal in this game. We can't give Arne Slot enough credit this season. The guy has been fantastic so far, and as much as in those first two games I think we found some criticisms, mostly individual ones, probably transitional ones, what we're looking at here is a management and game management masterclass from Arne Slot. We will talk more about that in a second. First of all, let's cover the goal. We knew that Szoboszlai had that in his locker. We know that Szoboszlai has always had that in his locker. Liverpool tweeted it after the game. We've watched those free kicks going in for, well, Hungary mostly, in multiple different international breaks. And now, as Liverpool head away on their international break, that is what sets us apart by 2 points, but also by 3 points to Arsenal. And how many points is it? How many points is it to City at this? I know we're early on and you shouldn't really look at the Premier League table, but if I look at standings, City are on 3 points, Liverpool on 9. Okay. No need to go crazy about that, but it was a fantastic strike. And it is another great it's another great thing for teams to be careful of. I know that it is a brilliant one-off, once-in-a-lifetime moment, as a lot of fans are claiming. But that's kind of the point of buying really good players. That's kind of the point of buying top-class quality midfielders who can do that in pressure moments. You put the other opposition on the massive back foot when you basically say, you can't foul us in this area. Basically what Arne Slot calls the danger zone, or that hot zone right in front of the penalty area. When you're in there, and Zubimendi knew it, it's much better to foul the player than allow them to run into that space and have all those other options. And people are going to talk about, that once in a lifetime moment, all those different phrases that people use to cast off a brilliant moment of genius in football, and that is what it was from Dominik Szoboszlai. It was an inspired strike in front of the Kop. As Chiesa wheels away, his arms are wide, Szoboszlai wheels away knowing that he's probably just put Liverpool 3 points ahead of Arsenal and 2 points ahead of Chelsea. It was a fantastic strike, and I don't know, maybe Raya could have got over to it, but it's the speed of it. It's not even the trajectory. It's actually it's not a very top bins. It's the very far very far side of the net, but it's not exactly like we're looking at a strike there where it's unreachable, but it's the sheer speed of it. And that is why Dominik Szoboszlai is our free kick taker, at least from that range. I get the feeling if you get a little bit closer, you want a little bit more placement. I mean, he can get it up and down, but you probably want someone who's just got a little bit more finesse at that range. That was just outside of that Trent range. And I think that's why Sobbo got to take that with Salah stepping away from it and those kind of things. It was very, very satisfying. It was a very tense game between Arsenal and Liverpool, and I think there are multiple reasons why. We're looking at this, you have to look at Liverpool's game management itself. With Liverpool being, first two games conceding a couple of goals per game, sometimes being in the ascendancy and then giving away that control, we weren't sure what we were going to see in this match, especially against an Arsenal side who'd had a lot more of that control, who'd had a lot more of those kind of solid moments, hadn't conceded a goal up until this point, had such a great away record against the top six going into this game, had a relatively good record at Anfield actually going into this game. Arsenal were thinking they were coming to Anfield to do something special, and Liverpool were the team that actually just simmer down. They just just chill. But they also had to do that with Dominik Szoboszlai at right back and a Kerkez who is still bedding in, despite his £40 million transfer fee, at left back. And we also had to do that with McAllister probably playing at about 50%. I thought Grab was fantastic in this game. A couple of clearances, a couple of slightly misplaced passes, but Liverpool are being given the licence now to carry the ball, and the Liverpool midfielders are beginning to enjoy it. We'll talk about Wirtz in a second. There are also a couple of times where I thought to myself, you know what? If Salah's touch is on today, we create a lot more clear-cut chances. And a few times the ball's fizzed into him, or it's actually a pretty perfect pass through to Salah, and he just doesn't manage to control the ball. And you've got to admit, Liverpool will be disappointed post-game to think, did we really put them to the sword enough? Because Arsenal came, and Peter Schmeichel said at half-time, and I don't want to go as far as that, one team came to play football. Arsenal certainly came to play football. But again, I think it was more towards the conservative end and meant to hit Liverpool on the break, getting into those gaps, especially trying behind Konate. I thought Konate was really good up until the injury today. But we saw that, Liverpool are basically in a position now where we are getting much better at game management because of the briefings that Arne Slot give players. And Arne Slot played Arteta perfectly. Arteta in that first half thought, well, Liverpool normally like to jab, and work out where the gaps are. So we just did jab, but we also took some of their jabs. We were willing in the early rounds just to trade a little bit, but not with some massive haymakers. Just land light jabs and work out where it is that we can get our luck, get some of our moments. We were playing incredibly narrow. We were playing very compact. Arsenal arguably just edging that first half, even if it was very defensive from both teams. They were winning that midfield battle. And arguably, because they just had one more player in there, and Wirtz was floating up and down, but ultimately it was Ekitike and Wirtz who needed to get a bit closer together, and Arsenal who therefore had that midfield superiority. I've got to admit, I still appreciate Wirtz. I think a lot of people are misreading what it is this guy needs to do. I think they think of him as getting on the ball, carrying and being almost Phil Coutinho-like, and I see him as more of a, we didn't buy Zubimendi, but we did buy someone who's more of a hookup player, going to bring everyone into play. And he's very much a spreader of the ball. This is a guy who, when he gets the ball, it can go backwards, it can go forwards, it can go there, it can go there. He's a 360 type player instantly every time he gets the ball. And people keep thinking, oh, well, he's going to just jink his way out of into the space and out of tight corners, and we're going to see him just run through the opposition. That's not what we bought him for, guys. You can clearly see he's there for that hookup, and McAllister sometimes does overlap him. A lot of people, Gary Neville in particular, there's not like Gary Neville as an analyst. I think there's a lot of the time he makes very solid points, and I think even for Liverpool he makes a lot of solid points, especially in games like this. But there's times where I just think he goes a little bit too far, and it just doesn't seem to make much. It's not, it doesn't make sense. It's just that he spreads it a little bit too thick, and it just puts you in a position where you're sort of going, okay, I get what you're trying to say, Gary, but again, you're really talking about Wirtz a lot here. And Wirtz is getting pushed off the ball, or Arsenal are really focusing on him, but his gravity is huge in this game. Arsenal need to go towards him, and hopefully Liverpool will find a way to deal with that with signing a striker or with signing a defender that can carry the ball, because that's what we were encouraging people to do today, like Konate, like Van Dijk. Hence why we're trying to sign Mark Guehi, who, by the way, does play. And it feels as if Liverpool are varying their play in such a way that it makes it harder for teams like Arsenal to basically get on the counter-attack or work it against us. This is clearly a very well-drilled team, and I think a lot of people in the first 2 weeks, including me, thought, well, it will take a little bit longer for us to bed in. And Salah said himself in that interview, there have been players in the Arsenal team who've played together for a very long time now. We'll talk about Eze in a second, although he was fantastic when he came on. But broadly, this Liverpool side have still got a very well-drilled engine of a midfield. There is still, I know we're playing Szoboszlai at right back, and he had a very, very good game at right back today. I thought it was really solid. And if Trent had that kind of game, or if Conor Bradley has had that kind of game, I think we'd really be praising them. So I'm going to give that praise to Szoboszlai. But he also dripped in midfield, and there's moments where Kirke's on the other side, almost mirroring that. And you see Liverpool shifting that back line around, and sometimes pushing Kirke's, sometimes pushing Szoboszlai. They've not quite got the balance right on that Kirke's side, but on Szoboszlai's side, with Salah on that side, I think we've really got that balance. And that's partly because of the way that Konate is so aggressive and covers so much space, and the way that back line rotates over. But I think it's also because of how good Szoboszlai and diligent Szoboszlai is, how physically dominant he is, all aspects of his game. I think he's just superior to the opposition. I know that there are moments last season where we were a bit more frustrated with him as he was more progressed down the field. But as I see him as a deeper player, bringing the ball forward, running onto it, almost a bit more like his, is it Leipzig? That is what I want to see. I want to see more of that, where he's carrying the ball downfield and hooking up play early on, running off of Wirtz, running off of McAllister, and then into space and bringing someone else into play. That's what I want to see from Dominic Szoboszlai, outside of just a brilliant free kick and being a threat constantly. Ekitike. Ekitike is, I think, already a Liverpool player. He gets the relationship with Anfield. he gets the serious games. He really looks locked in every game, and I love his approach to all these games. People are pushing him around, and it's very often Nunez. I mean, again, I don't want to get into criticising previous players, but you'd see him kind of get sucked into this sort of, oh, the game's out. Oh, is the game going for me? Is it not? Ekitike just seems to grit his teeth, enjoy riding those tackles, and exhausts himself for however long he's on the field. All right. I love watching him because I love his approach. There are a couple of times where we lose the ball, and arguably, I don't think that's because of his strength. I think it's because people double or sometimes triple up on him, and he gets in very tight spaces. Again, probably what we were asking Nunez to do last year, and he really lacked the capability to do that. So I respect Ekitike's capability to even get us to this position. But I do think there are a couple of times where I think, if Fiat's pushed on and we were serving the ball up a little bit easier to a 10 in there, or just an attacking player, could be McAllister, could be Szoboszlai, what could Ekitike do running in off that last shoulder, just being that man pushing that back line back? And I think, again, we're not seeing the final shape here of Liverpool. So we've just beaten Arsenal with what I would describe as a holding formation, not a holding player, but a holding formation for Liverpool. And the work we're going to do once we try to bring in Isak, I think we will bring him in. Wow, that really darkened once we go there, right? Let me just get you a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. We'll start. It's Arsenal, I don't think were adventurous enough today, and they didn't punish Liverpool enough when they did get on the ball. The time they punished Liverpool most were when Eze was on the ball or when Odegaard was on the ball. Neither of those played a full 90, and we will hear those excuses of not having those players. I need to lighten this up even more here, guys, because this is kind of ridiculous. Let me go super bright. I'm just going to do this just for a second, and then I'm also going to do that. Yeah. And I think the frustration for me is, Arsenal came with basically a full-strength side, and apart from Bukayo Saka. Gyökeres through the middle, he looked lightweight against Konate. Konate made him look lightweight, frankly. I don't think it was anything to do with Gyökeres. I think we will see that a lot this season. He's either got to bed in or beef up in order to cope with the Premier League. And there will be moments where he'll snatch goals, but I genuinely think, he's not built yet for the Premier League. His pace looked really off it. The fact that Liverpool players were catching up with him, but they couldn't catch up with Noni Madueke, a player who looks rapid, by the way. I love Liverpool and Kerkez need to work on that. Still concerned by Kerkez. Why is it so bright? Still concerned by Kerkez. Still concerned by that left side for Liverpool, mainly because I think Kerkez at times looks a little bit like he's just a bit off it. I'm disappointed. He, for me, felt like the most kind of nailed on of all the transfers, but here we are. They were running at him and they were running at Konate, and I think overall Szoboszlai dealt pretty well with everything they pushed at him. I think Kerkez was good at his recoveries, which is what we knew about Kerkez, but I don't want to see him recovering because that just feels too late, too risky, giving away corners that way. I want to see him making those tackles higher up the field, committing, and ultimately winning the ball back. And he isn't doing that yet. I think, again, once that formation change comes, maybe we'll see a change in Kerkez, but at the moment, here we are, right? I can't say I've been particularly impressed with him in these first couple of games. I know a few of you are going to focus on that one tackle where he then brought it down the field, and that was good. That is what I want to see from him. But also, as Liverpool left back, you have to be good in all aspects of your game, and it cannot be that you're good in a couple of these aspects. Chiesa coming on is an interesting one. Mainly because if I look at Liverpool's bench, obviously I think we're still looking at bringing Harvey Elliott into another team. But if I look at that bench, we had Conor Bradley, Harvey Elliott, Rio Ngamoa, Andy Robertson. And really, we only had Chiesa as a sub in this game and Curtis Jones. Joe Gomez was going to be unused if Konate didn't get injured. And ultimately, Wataru Endo comes on. And again, a bit of a change of shape there from Arne Slot. Loves doing that change of shape. Loves pushing people like Curtis Jones a little bit further down. And it gives us that ball carrying ability. A lot of this work that we're seeing in the game, people are treating as if it is some sort of get out there and just go and see what you can do. Arne Slot deserves so much credit for what he does in basically entering that danger zone for him. Liverpool managed to control the game. We managed to get our foot on the ball in the end. I know we didn't get as many shots as them. People are going to go and focus on that. Arsenal weren't attacking enough. Liverpool didn't attack. It's not the way it works. You could see very late on that Liverpool were the side that were pushing more for that win. They were at home. You could see that Liverpool were the side who shifted things up on Arsenal. Arsenal weren't quite able to deal with that. And if Salah had a better touch, or if I think ultimately if we get our final few signings, I think you're looking at a very dangerous Liverpool side here. It's very promising that Liverpool clicked in this game. We've now got a couple of weeks to go away. There'll be an international break. Konate was injured. Let's see if he remains injured. We will see Van Dijk go away. We will see Gakpo go away. We will see Alisson go away with Brazil. And then we come back and we have to hit the ground relatively, I think, running. As I go to the matches, we run straight into Burnley. Burnley, Atletico Madrid a couple of days later. When do we play Real Madrid? Bring me Real Madrid. 4th of November. Okay. Remember, the 4th of November. Burnley, Atletico, Everton, Palace away, Galatasaray, Chelsea, Man United, Frankfurt, then we go to Brentford, then Villa, then Real Madrid. So it's quite a run of games there, guys. And you would hope that Liverpool are bedding in a couple of guys. So, we won't be able to bed in Isak. He'll be going away. There is a lot to do here in this next few weeks. But I actually think what we'll broadly see is that Liverpool will get back and will roughly be the same because we'll need to do that work to take the time to bed Isak in or to bed Mark Guéhi in. It's going to be really interesting to see how we deal with this. A couple of other thoughts. A couple of people saying the referee was against us early on. Not really sure about that. I ultimately, I think, midfield battle, you're going to get some of those, you're not going to get some of those. A lot of the games it feels like they're called against us, but here we are. Really weird note. What weird statty kickoff is that from Arsenal? I know it pushed us back, but it felt so strange not to retain possession. And it felt so, oh, here we go. We're going to do something unusual, a bit quirky. They should have just kept it. I don't get it. I know it pushed us back into a weird position. It didn't work. Ultimately, if it doesn't work from that position, Liverpool get a counter-attack, which it did. It looks strange. Just retain possession. You're kicking towards the Kop. Just get your foot on the ball. Do you know what I mean? Van Dijk again, imperious. But again, didn't need really to be imperious. It was against Madueke, Gyökeres, and who was the other guy in the front line? Because the player I was most impressed with was when he came on was Odegaard, and Odegaard was good, but really it was Martinelli. That's why it was non-event. Eze was fantastic, and I can see why we were interested in him at some point, but also I see why we've got Florian Wirtz. Would have been interesting to know what would have happened if we'd gone in for Eze. I think Eze was always waiting for this Arsenal move, so I don't think we would have got him. But that's why we've gone for Gyökeres. Some people will criticise Gakpo after this game. I think Gakpo actually had quite a good game. Created a lot of space for himself, was shut down by a lot of Arsenal players. Ultimately, they have to commit 2 or 3 players at the edge of the box when Gakpo cuts in, and it creates a lot of space on the overlap for Kirkes, if he can make it, or in that little pocket for Ekitike that he can then drift into, and then you're looking at a little pass back. I like it. It's very effective. It seems a little hacky, but it is very effective. Ultimately, for me, man of the match, Szoboszlai. McAllister didn't have his best game. Some people saying he looked really off it. I think it was a good friend of mine, Sam Maguire, said he looked like he ran a 10k. He's not half wrong there, but I do think he's still building his game up. Ultimately, he had a lot to do in this game, and I think early on he was just trying to get his legs. I personally liked what I saw from McAllister. I thought it was good movement. I think he has the hardest, those 3 midfield roles, the hardest roles, the most kind of malleable or changeable roles on the field. So I'm not going to blame anyone for not getting that early on, especially when you're trying to judge the opposition. And that is what McAllister is. He's I call him an empathetic player out on the field. He's got to read what everyone else is doing and then adapt his game. But he did look tired. And that's always been a criticism, I think, of him in this slot team, is just you've got to look like you're switched on and up to 100% straight away. And he was switched on, but he wasn't up to 100% straight away. I think that's ultimately, my midfield evaluation. Graver thought was great. There are a few times where once we took off Mac, our midfield looked a little bit empty, but I think we kind of balanced it much more quickly. Curtis Jones did become a bit deeper as we moved on. And ultimately, I don't think Arsenal had that many meaningful chances. I don't really remember any moment where I thought, wow, that was great. There had a few things where you thought, maybe we're looking at a guy here who might give a penalty, but I don't think we do. I think ultimately Liverpool rode their luck today and we got through it. It's what people are going to say, it's what champions do. It's what we do on the slot. I think Slot deserves so much more credit than he's getting right now. Slot read Arteta and played him at his own game, and frankly, he won it. It's that simple. We won the Arteta game today, and it's part of the risk that Arteta takes. It's part of the reason we got Arne Slot, was he's a very tactically astute manager who's very good at kind of second guessing people. There's more of a game of poker there. I think Liverpool under Klopp maybe would have got sucked out. Maybe we would have been a little bit more tense. Slot, calm down, play the ball. It felt much more measured to me, and almost a bit more of an incisive kind of, right, here we go. We've now read what it is that you're trying to do. Now we're going to make our moves. And they worked for about 10, 15 minutes. And that is ultimately what got us that free kick and ultimately that goal. Szoboszlai get the credit, but damn it, Slot deserves a lot of that. Oh, I've got to cut this in here. Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez came on and did what Joe Gomez does. And it's partly why I don't want to sell Joe Gomez, because I think he's fantastic, but I know that Liverpool are looking for a move for him. I know that we're looking to kind of get him somewhere else where he can play first team football. I personally would loan him out. Milan want that loan. I know we want to move him on, maybe to balance the books, maybe for PSR. I love Joe Gomez. Came on, did a really solid job, was tactically astute. I know there was the moment of the penalty, but ultimately there wasn't enough pulling there to be a penalty. Eze was fantastic in this game against a number of players. And actually, I thought Joe Gomez did a really good job. This light's all over the place. I like Joe Gomez. I know we're going to get in Mark Gahey. I know that we've got Leone. I know we're moving on. But Joe Gomez has been some fantastic servant for this club. And if that is the last thing that he does for Liverpool in this red shirt, Joe, you've been incredible. I've loved everything you've done in a red shirt. Even I was at that Napoli game, mate. Your confidence looked rock bottom, so credit for what you've done to come back to where you are. I love you as a player. I love the decade you've had at the club. And I love that one of your last moments for Liverpool may have been a key win against Arsenal at Anfield. Better luck next time, Arsenal. Big statement from us. Big statement. So I appreciate you guys watching. I know there's going to be some tactical things I've not gone over here. I will go over those in the video tomorrow. If you aren't already a member, get down there and you will see a very raw reaction. If you aren't already in the Patreon, feel free to go down there. And if you aren't already in the Discord, that's absolutely free. Go and take a look at that. If you're feeling good, drop us a super chat and I will chat to you guys later in the week. Much love. There is a lot more to come on this channel, by the way. A lot of transfers to be done. Appreciate you guys. Much love.